Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Legal. I'm one of your hosts, Shante Wilson.
Hola, I am attorney Hudson from
And
the Hudson Law Group.
yes, and as you know, Keeping It Legal, we break down complex legal areas into simple, plain language for everyday use.
I almost thrown you off in my Spanish. um, yes, we do. Yes, we do. Today, our episode, we have another very prominent, probably the biggest area within the immigration laws and policies. Today, we're going to discuss family-based immigration.
Family-based immigration, another vast area, as you said. As usual, for all our videos, we like to start with a workable definition. So family-based immigration, what is it in simple, plain language?
Simple, plain language, family-based individual allow U.S. citizen to petition/sponsor their non-U.S. resident beneficiary. So it allows individuals who are overseas, or individuals who are not just overseas, but individuals who are non-U.S. residents to be able to obtain their lawful permanent resident and eventually become U.S. citizens.
Okay, and one type of family-based immigration is consular processing. You've had many clients in that area.
Yeah, of course. So consular processing, all that means is that you are immigrating from your home country, your consulate post. You will go through your immigration process through the consulate post in your home country, and then eventually immigrate to the United States.
Okay, so what is a qualifying requirement for consular processing?
Well, just in generally speaking, to qualify for a family-based immigration, you have to fall within one of the categories that allow for a U.S. sponsor to be able to petition for you, right? You have to be a family member of a U.S. Based sponsor or petitioner.
Okay.
Right. Then there's several. Well, there are two major categories and several subsections within those categories. The two major ones will be the immediate family members, and then non-immediate family members, or people who fall within the preferential category, the preference category, meaning that they have to wait for a visa availability in order for them to be able to finalize the immigration process.
Okay.
Just for our viewers, do you know who are immediate family members? Who will be considered immediate family members?
Yes, I do. And this is from your consultations. I picked up a little knowledge here and there. So immediate family members would be spouses of the U.S. citizen, children under 21, and also parents of the U.S. citizen.
That is true. And then everyone else falls within the preferential category. What the preferential category is that there are a limited number of visas allocated for family beneficiary of U.S. Based sponsors, right? Congress has made this allocation, and because more people apply for those visas that there is visas available, it has created a backlog, right? So the biggest difference between immediate family member and anyone that is non-immediate family member is the wait time. More people that apply, the more the backlog is created, because if there, simple math, if there is 10 things available and 12 people apply for it, 2 people will be out of luck.
The demand is more than the supply.
Right. So that means next year, instead of 10 people that apply next year to be able to come, only 8, because then you have to give the 2 people that wait that's
preference.
The people that didn't receive it this year preference. And because of that, over time the wait time has become astronomical. Depends on the type of category that you fall under. I believe in my logical mind that they create the category based on like the importance, based on the desire, the needs of those individuals, i.e. for spouses of U.S. Lawful permanent resident and children of lawful permanent resident. They are also in the category, in the non-immediate family member category. But what you realize is those individuals, they take preference over someone that will be not as important, for lack of better term. So they will take preference over someone who will, like a sibling of a U.S. citizen or a sibling of a lawful permanent resident. scratch that. You cannot petition it for a sibling as a lawful permanent resident, but as a sibling of a U.S. citizen, those are kind of like at the very end of the total poll, because there's not such a good argument to be made that I need my sibling here in order for me to function as a U.S. citizen, right? So people, lawful permanent residents who are married, or lawful permanent resident who have children, though even though they all fall within the preferential category, they have different categories within the preferential, subcategories within the overall category.
Right. So after you establish the qualifying relationship and you fit yourself into one of the categories or subcategories, what is the next step in the process?
Once you establish a relationship, then you have to petition. You as a U.S. citizen will then essentially ask the U.S. government, USCIS, to allow your U.S. or your non-U.S. resident family member to migrate to the United States, right? In terms of marriage, essentially you're saying, hi, U.S. government, I, as a U.S. citizen, I do have a right to marry whomever I want to, right? So what I need for you to do is allow my spouse to immigrate to the U.S. to come and live with me, right?
Right. So one thing that I have picked up during the consultations, or I've heard a lot of clients mention from the successful cases, is the time that they had to wait in order from filing the petition to actually getting a response to actually being granted their visa. Could you speak to us about the time? Why does it take so long? Like, why is the time so lengthy?
The simple answer is the government. Anything that government is involved with will take some time. And that's why I'm a proponent of privatizing everything. If there's competition, naturally the services will get better, right? So it also it depends on the volume. The USCIS does process a lot of these cases, right? But I think the time more so will, if you ask someone that works there, will be because of background checks, right? If you ask me, it's because someone's not doing what they need to do, right? Because there are so many ways you can check someone's background. We have AI where you can run someone's background in 3 seconds. But there is a volume of people who apply each day, and it depends on the officer that's working on the case, what field office or what processing center it is going to. And it's also very unpredictable, right? So it's not like a standard time. I wish this would make my job so much easier when someone, and this question is asked every single time I consult with someone, is how long it will take. I wish I had that answer, or even if I had like an approximation. But it's really and truly, I've submitted cases where 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. It was the petition, the I-130 petition was approved. I've also submitted some of those petitions that waited a year or over a year, right? But it's all depending on the officer's attitude and mood the day of. And I will say all of the cases I submit are approvable. I've been doing this for a while, so I know exactly what's needed. But it's not a matter of whether the case is strong or not. It's just a matter of who's working it, I suppose.
What are some more requirements needed for a successful application? So we went through the qualifying relationship, right? We went through filing the petition. What are some more requirements needed?
Yeah, so when filing the petition, you also have to establish the relationship to USCIS.
So evidence.
So evidence of the relationship.
How big of a role does evidence play in this application?
It plays a major role, right? So you, as a U.S. citizen, you do have a constitutional right to marry whomever you want to marry. The government could only violate your constitutional right if it has a compelling reason, right? A compelling reason to violate your constitutional right is if you engage in violation of the law, like if you're engaged in a fraudulent marriage, for instance, right? So you don't have to establish that your marriage is not fraudulent by submitting supporting evidence of why it isn't, right? So terms of like marriage, like pictures of you all together, maybe your conversation, screenshots of your conversation, maybe the PG version of your conversation, and maybe affidavits from family members and friends who are privy to like the relationship.
So essentially, this person, you have to prove the marriage.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have the proof to them, or the burden of proof is on you to establish that is that is a legitimate marriage. It's not the bar isn't too high when it's a consulate, because naturally, if you all live in separate countries, you're not going to have a lot of evidence. You will have like your travel information to show that you've traveled to go visit your spouse, or you may have the compensation. Sometimes you have money exchanges where it's oftentimes the U.S. citizen will be sending money to the non-citizen to help support them. And then obviously how many times you've gone to visit, and those kind of evidence to kind of support, make a minimal effort to show that it's more than just, here's my marriage certificate, let my husband come or let my wife come to the US.
So after I gather all my evidence, what is the next step for me?
Yeah, once you gather your evidence, you submit the petition. Once the petition is approved, there is a second phase. There is the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center is the department essentially that coordinates with the different embassies throughout the world. And the National Visa Center also help collect some of the evidence that you will need once the case. I look at it this way: the initial petition is the U.S. petitioner saying to the U.S. government, "Hey, I need to petition for my spouse." So a lot of the background check that is done in the U.S. is on the U.S. citizen spouse, right? There are a limited number of justification as to why your petition will be denied based on your background. There are like a few crimes that if you've been convicted of, then that will prevent you from being able to petition for someone. Those are some hideous type of convictions. So not too many people fall under that.
So there are inadmissibilities here that can prevent you from petitioning.
Well, not necessarily inadmissibilities, because you're, as a U.S. citizen, you're not applying for admission, but there are certain prevention, certain requirements that you could not meet if you have a conviction. For instance, if you have a let's say child rape conviction, it falls within the immigration laws. It says if you've been a child predator, or if you've been convicted of one of those crimes, then you will be prevented from petitioning for someone just out of the abundance of caution from you being able to bring someone to the U.S. and exploit them, or maybe essentially judging you because of your past convictions. But it's very limited. I've only had this come up one time in my many years of practice in immigration law. Right. So once the U.S. government is finished with your background, then they will toss it over to the National Visa Center, who will then be in charge of running the background of the immigrants. Right. So at the Visa Center, you will have to submit police clearance from your home country, the affidavit of support, the taxes to show that you make enough money to help support your spouse, right? And then once the National Visa Center is satisfied with all that you've submitted, then they will send you a notification letting you know that your case is documentarily qualified, and all that they're waiting for is for an availability at the consulate for them to coordinate and schedule an appointment, an interview, a visa interview.
Okay, so let's talk about the interview. How rigorous is this interview process?
It is not. It's not rigorous. It's not the typical things that you see on on TV, or some of you that follow these different social media accounts or Google. From my experience, and I've done this a lot, it's more so formality purposes. Like, you have to conduct a medical exam. There are certain diseases that can render you inadmissible. And inadmissibility just means that you're not eligible for a U.S. visa.
Part of the non-citizen.
Yes, for anyone that's applying for admission, and non-citizens will have to apply for admission to the U.S.
So the interview process is for the non-citizen primarily.
It is. Okay. It is. It's only for the non-citizen. The U.S.-based citizen or the U.S.-based petitioner is not allowed to go to the interview, actually. Okay. But most of the interviews are pretty standard. You will, once your interview is scheduled, you will be provided instruction of how to schedule your appointment, your medical appointment. You will then go in for your medical exam, and they will, test you for the diseases. The three diseases that render someone inadmissible are tuberculosis, syphilis and gonorrhea for some reason. And these are diseases that should be that should be considered commutable. So essentially, you could infect U.S. citizens, right? I don't know why and how gonorrhea and syphilis fall into that category, but I get TB. But I digress. That's what it is. At the interview, they also will look for or ask questions. Sometimes they will actually go proceed with testing, but for drug use, right? Certain places, they particularly like in Latin America, they look for tattoos. And if you have certain tattoos, they could determine that you are affiliated with gangs. And because of that, those are the compelling reasons why the government would say, "Oh, I know you have your whole, your constitutional rights, but we have reason to think that this person will pose a harm to a U.S. citizen, or this person is associated with a terrorist group, and therefore our compelling reason for denial is outweighs your constitutional rights, and therefore we're going to deny your application."
Okay. So after the interview process, what's next?
So once you go to the interview and you go through, you will take your medical exam. Some places the medical exam will be sent directly to the embassy. They will just open it, make sure everything checks out. They will then make a determination. They will keep your passport likely, and they will keep your passport for a few days. And the reason behind that is that they're going to place your visa in your passport. And you're going to be given a visa to travel to the U.S. If for some reason the interview does not go well, they will let you know what they need, if they need anything. They may need additional evidence, or they may need, some other information that you may have failed to submit or failed to take to the interview, and they'll let you know how to submit that. And they sometimes will still keep your passport. Other times they will tell you, well, once you have this, then bring your passport back. If you straight up fail, like maybe something didn't check out with the medical exam, they could also deny you. But they will let you know. You'll know if you're denied, or you'll know pretty much. You will find out your fate at the interview likely.
Well, if you or anyone you know needs assistance with filing a petition for consular processing, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Hudson Law Group.
That is true. So that was a breakdown of the consular processing under family-based immigration. We will follow this up by our first interview.
Yes.
That
is exciting, guys.
So we have two guests that were going to be joining us next week. Should we tell them who they are? The importance of who they are, significance? Yes, I'm going to tell them. So these were my first,
spoiler alert,
my first two clients. When I started my journey many, many years ago, these were the very first two individuals I've consulted with. They hired me. They are making a special appearance.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to them. You all will get a chance to see it.
Our very first guest. And that interview was very heartwarming too.
Yes. So it's a good story. And we'll share that with you all soon. Until then, continue to be engaged with us.
Yes.
Continue to like and subscribe and share the videos as well. Let your friends, neighbors, cousins, whomever, anyone that's interested in migrating to the United States or thinking about it. Maybe your best friend just went to Jamaica and got her a man. Just send it to her. Or have her call us, even better.
Yeah, if you or anyone you know needs any legal advice, the Hudson Law Group is here to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Until then, stay well.
Bye, guys.
May God.